Hey guys, it is Nick here, and today we will be seeing if Glenn will actually give in to the rage inside of him to avenge Maggie, or if his feelings are so mixed up at this point that Negan's fate will remain undecided. This is part 3 to What If Negan Killed Maggie, the remake. Now, to discuss the rest of what happens after the whole argy-bargy with Negan before we get into the big stuff, Carl and Enid, like all my other stories, get into a relationship, and that actually develops a lot more than their original. And Rick goes down to see Negan and talk to him about what's going on, except this is a season early. Actually, it would be 2 seasons early, because this would be near the beginning of season 7 territory, since the battle with Negan at the clearing just happened, pretty much. So, yeah. Anyways, he also interrogates Negan to see what other communities he has under his control. Hilltop, obviously, but since Gregory is now dead thanks to Glenn, and Jesus is now the new leader, Hilltop is honestly not a problem to worry about anymore. Just few things here and there with Jesus having to be the new leader and such. Nothing too major. Now, Negan also mentions the kingdom, where King Ezekiel is the leader there, and Gavin, one of his top lieutenants, goes there to collect deliveries. Then he mentions the junkyard, and the leader's name being Jadis, and those people not really being the most trustworthy or talkable groups out there, meaning that they're just not a group you want to be around without some higher means of authority, like Negan. Because how else would Jadis and her people have conspired with Negan if they didn't have more authority than them? Anyways, Negan says that with him being here, and his top lieutenants Simon and Dwight being dead, all the other leaders will eventually rally the saviors that are at the sanctuary and outposts against Rick's group. But there is a way to fix that. He just wants his bat back, and then he will go to the sanctuary to tell all of his men to stay down forever, and that Rick's group and all the other kingdoms are going to work together from now on. Because if he does that, then there won't be any problems. But if he does not go back soon, that's going to start a war that Rick and his people might not be able to win, even without Negan. And even if they do win, it's going to cause damage that it's going to take a long time to fix. Damage that would have happened had Negan stayed in charge. Possibly even worse, which would have been the original. Now, Rick thinks about this and says that this does sound like a pretty good deal, but here's the thing. Rick tells Negan that if he tries one thing, just the one little thing, to try and backstab him or his people, he's just going to kill him and all of his people right there on the spot. No mercy, no questions asked, because remember, he did kill Maggie and Abraham. So it really wouldn't be too far of a punishment for him. But the deal is decided. That's how it's going to be. But the anger felt towards Rick for what he did to spare Negan is much stronger here, especially with certain other people being alive. And one person who just cannot let it go is Glenn, obviously, because of Maggie, how influential she was to the group, how much she meant to Glenn. And Glenn pulls Rick aside and talks to him about it before they actually go out and do their plan. Glenn begs Rick to reconsider and just end Negan's life. It's better for everyone. It's better for Maggie, better for Abraham. Maggie especially. Not that Abraham was just nothing, but Glenn lets it be known to the best of his ability how much Maggie meant to him But Rick says that he's not just doing this for Maggie, he's not just doing this for Abraham, and he's not even just doing this for the group and all the other communities. He's doing this for Glenn and for everyone that they've lost previously. Because, think about it. Dale, he brings this up too. He would be one that even if Negan did all this, there would be a fine line of saving humanity. And if you don't think that Rick would do this here, think about it. He spared Negan because of Carl being alive. Well, not being alive, but him wanting a better future. And to be honest, if Negan were to have killed Maggie, I honestly feel that Dale would be brought up in some way, shape, or form to sway Glenn from going down the same path as Negan. And Negan saying this himself in front of Glenn, that would definitely spike Rick to not want to assist Glenn in killing Negan. Except it would be different circumstances rather than Carl wanting it as his last wish. But Glenn, he doesn't want to lose this argument. And even brings up Shane, which is really not a good idea. He brings up that if Shane were still alive, he would kill Negan right on the spot the second that his bat swung down on Abraham. He wouldn't even let Negan kill Maggie. Even if he was, cray-cray. Rick, hearing Shane being brought up, no. Glenn went too far. Rick was pretty much on his side until what Negan said about Glenn becoming just like him. And now this, Rick is definitely not in the mood to be on Glenn's side, with Shane being brought up. The two actually get into a fight, which we've really never seen before. We saw them argue in season 3, true, but we never really saw Rick and Glenn get into a fist fight or have that many interactions, honestly, which is kind of a shame. But this would actually be an all-out fist fight to the death. So this would be like a Rick and Shane moment. But Glenn ain't winning that, and Rick beats him down senseless. Now, Daryl and Michonne, who are coming along, by the way, are around to see this happen, and Daryl is half tempted to step in along with Michonne because really hadn't seen Rick get this crazy with a fight since Pete and maybe Tyrese, whenever Tyrese was mad about Karen and David. But Rick calms himself down because he knows what Glenn is going through. And Negan is right in a way. If Glenn goes down this path, he will become just like he did, even worse. He's showing it. And that he's doing this to help him. And Negan made a deal, and if he breaks it, only then will he kill him and the rest of his saviors. But the deal's in place. There's no turning back now. Now, while all this is going on, Jesus takes it upon himself to go to the other communities that Negan had under his control, Kingdom being the first, to tell him about Negan and saviors not being a threat anymore. But first up, of course, like I said, is the Kingdom, where Carol and Morgan are still at, and by this time, I feel, would be just walking out of Ezekiel's little house theater thingamajig. Morgan is conflicted on hearing that the saviors are no longer a threat, because sure, this is kind of what he wanted, for the saviors to be dealt with in a way that didn't involve a war or anything like that, but hearing that Negan's spared after what he did to Maggie, a pregnant woman and everything else, and Abraham, it conflicts him, but he's definitely happy that Rick chose the former, of sparing Negan. Carol, hearing that Maggie is dead especially, this definitely hurts her, because especially after what Paula and all the other saviors did whenever they kidnapped Carol and Maggie, and thinking that Maggie's baby was dead then, she definitely needs a long time to think about this, and goes off on her own like before, But eventually I feel that Ezekiel would warm up enough to get her to come back with him and everything to the kingdom, at least. Get her out of her comfort zone, because, Ezekiel was trying to get Carol to like him at this point, see where he was coming from and everything, and he's definitely happy that he doesn't have to work for the Saviors anymore. Now, next stop is Jadis's people, and although they're happy that they don't have to work under anyone anymore, at least with Negan and the Saviors, Jadis, I feel, would still want to trade someone to get into the city, which I feel is what they did with Heath. Either that or they just killed him, but that's unrelated. But anyways, I feel that when Jesus does go there, that she would try and kidnap him, most likely, or apprehend him to trade him to get into the CRM. But Jesus, being the fighter that he is, I don't see him losing at all, even if he is outmanned. Because although we didn't see a lot of it, Jesus was a good fighter. He kept his own against Morgan. So it would be a pointless effort to go there anyway, because the scavengers would just get themselves killed. Now at the sanctuary, the only leader types left are Laura, Gavin, Regina, and Arot, with Simon and Dwight obviously being dead, and the rest of the Saviors, including these leaders here, waiting on the return of Negan, Simon, Dwight, and all the other bunches of Saviors that went out. But they would never return. Except for Negan, of course. And Sherry would never know what happened to Dwight because he's dead. And this has happened before with my What If Rick Spared Shane remake, and it's just some kind of sad, honestly, for Sherry, not knowing if her husband, boyfriend, I don't know what really was the deal there, but anyway, Negan and all the others, Rick, Daryl, Michonne, who are at the sanctuary now, begin their plan, and Negan asks for his bat back so he can go and talk to his men and sort everything out like they agreed. Now, Rick, having Lucille at this point, does not really... He doesn't know how to feel about this. He doesn't know if he should, one, take Glenn's side and just ice Negan here, or just go through with the plan. The easier way out. But they did make a deal, and this is for the greater good. So, ultimately, he gives Negan the bat, and Negan goes up to the walls of the sanctuary to tell his men to stand down and that everything will be peaceful and good again. But will Negan actually do this? Or is this just a secret plan to gather all of his men together with whatever forces they have left and take back what Negan thinks is his? And that's where we leave things for the moment. Hope you guys enjoyed this third part of the series. Hope you guys are enjoying What If Negan Killed Maggie, the remake as a whole, especially now that it's a full story. What length do you think Glenn will go to kill Negan here? And do you think that Negan will actually go through with the deal that he's made, or just turn on Rick and his people? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time.